Aluminum tray. 3 compartments. 25 minutes at 425 degrees. The brown cardboard box. And on the front of the box, a drawing of a television set. The Swanson TV dinner arrived in American grocery stores in 1954 in a box designed to look like the thing you were going to eat it in front of, at 98 cents per package, and sold 10 million units in its first year to a country that apparently had been waiting for exactly this without knowing it was waiting. The TV dinner solved a problem that most people in 1954 did not yet understand they had, the problem of a hot meal without an afternoon. The aluminum tray, heated in the oven and carried to the television, did not eliminate the family dinner. It relocated it, from the kitchen table to the TV tray, from a thing that someone had cooked to a thing that someone had heated. The 1960s were the decade in which the Swanson TV dinner grew from a single product into a complete portfolio of American eating, defining what affordable convenience food could taste like, look like, and mean to a country that was eating faster every year. These are the 15 Swanson TV dinners that defined that decade. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Number 15, the turkey dinner, the original. The first TV dinner featured turkey, cornbread dressing and gravy, buttered peas, and sweet potatoes. It cost 98 cents. It arrived in a 3-compartment aluminum tray inside a cardboard box printed with the silhouette of a television set that named the entire product category and the entire era of eating that followed. The turkey. Thin slices of roasted turkey with a pale brown gravy that became warm and savory in the oven at 425 degrees. Not restaurant turkey, and not home-cooked turkey, but something new. Reliable turkey, at a predictable temperature, available every Tuesday without anyone having roasted anything. The core and bread dressing was dense and slightly sweet, the peas slightly overcooked, and the sweet potatoes a warm, starchy orange at the edge of the tray. Swanson sold 10,000 of them that year. The turkey dinner is the beginning. Every other dinner on this list is a consequence of the decision made in 1954 to sell a hot meal in an aluminum tray for 98 cents to a country that responded by buying 10 million of them. Number 14. The fried chicken dinner. The first expansion. A frozen fried chicken dinner was introduced in 1955. 3 pieces of fried chicken, a drumstick, a thigh, and a breast or wing, depending on the production run, placed in the first compartment of a 3-section aluminum tray alongside whipped potatoes with milk and butter in the second compartment and mixed vegetables in the third. The fried chicken dinner presented Swanson with a technical challenge the turkey dinner did not. Fried chicken has a crust, and the crust that survives freezing and 25 minutes in a home oven is a different crust from the one that came out of the fryer. The Swanson fried chicken crust, browned on the exterior, somewhat yielding in the middle, slightly soft in the places where the chicken had released moisture during the oven time. A Swanson fried chicken dinner cost 98 cents in 1960. Turkey is still the most popular Swanson TV dinner, except in Fort Worth, Dallas, where fried chicken is the favorite. That geographic preference exists because Dallas and Fort Worth were eating a different thing when they ate Swanson fried chicken. Not just chicken, but a proxy for the fried chicken tradition that the aluminum tray approximated. For 98 cents on a Tuesday, the approximation was good enough. The real thing knew the difference. The customer had already paid. Number 13. The Salisbury steak dinner, the masterpiece and the reputation's problem. Salisbury steak was not steak. It was ground beef combined with onion, breadcrumbs, egg, and Worcestershire sauce formed into an oval patty shape to suggest the silhouette of a steak without being one and served in a rich, dark, oniony mushroom gravy. A Salisbury steak recipe. Ground beef patties formed into the shape of steak cuts, then smothered in a rich, oniony, mushroomy gravy. Moist, tender beef patties loaded with savory flavor that freeze extremely well, and Swanson took notice. A Swanson Salisbury steak dinner cost 89 cents in 1963. The Salisbury steak TV dinner was the product that defined what a TV dinner could do well. Braised or slow-cooked ground meat in a savory sauce freezes correctly, reheats correctly, and delivers the hot, dense, savory result at the table that the consumer expected when they put it in the oven. It did not try to be something it wasn't. It tried to be a warm, filling, savory meat dinner in a gravy. And it was. The Salisbury steak also gave the TV dinner its reputation problem. The phrase Salisbury steak dinner became, by the 1980s, shorthand for a specific category of institutional food: cheap, adequate, slightly sad, and the product that deserved that shorthand, the overprocessed version of the overprocessed product was a long way from the 1963 version that was simply ground beef and mushroom gravy at 89 cents. The Salisbury steak stood as the TV dinner's masterpiece. The word TV dinner became the problem. Number 12. The meatloaf dinner, the home recipe in a tray. The meatloaf in the Swanson TV dinner was the home meatloaf translated into a format that eliminated the loaf pan, the oven time, and the cook who assembled it. A slice of meatloaf, ground beef and pork with breadcrumbs, onion, and a ketchup glaze that caramelized against the aluminum during the oven time, producing a sweet, slightly sticky, deeply savory exterior that was brown at the edges and still slightly soft at the center. Mashed potatoes in the second compartment, corn or peas in the third. A Swanson meatloaf dinner cost 89 cents in 1965. The ketchup glaze caramelization distinguished the Swanson meatloaf. The sugars in the ketchup browned and tightened during the 25 minutes in the oven, producing a crust on the meatloaf surface that the home version produced during an hour and a half in the oven at 350 degrees. The compressed time of the TV dinner produced a compressed version of the same result, not the same meatloaf. The same category of meatloaf in 25 minutes for 89 cents. The woman who had been making meatloaf every Thursday for 20 years could produce the home version in a loaf pan for less. What she could not produce in a loaf pan was the extra hour that the TV dinner gave her. The hour was what they were buying. The meatloaf was the packaging. Number 11. The sirloin beef dinner, the aspirational tray. By the time this version came out in the mid-60s, Swanson had 11 TV dinner variations on the market, including one with fried shrimp. The sirloin beef tray came with rich brown gravy, buttered peas, and French fries. A Swanson sirloin beef dinner cost $1.09 in 1966. The sirloin beef dinner sat at the top of Swanson's aspirational range, not ground beef formed into the shape of steak, not turkey and gravy, but actual sliced sirloin beef in a rich brown gravy served alongside French fries. French fries, which in the mid-1960s still carried enough restaurant and diner association that their presence on a supermarket tray constituted a mild luxury. The sirloin was thin-sliced and tender, the gravy dark and savory, the peas green and soft, and the French fries that emerged from the oven after 25 minutes. Newts were not the crisp fried fries of the diner counter, but were warm and slightly limp and tasted of potato and the oven heat and the company of the beef gravy. They were good. They were different. They were 21 cents more than the Salisbury steak. At 11 TV dinner variations by the mid-1960s, Swanson had figured out that the customer who would pay 89 cents for meatloaf was a different customer from the customer who would pay $1.09 for sirloin beef, and both were worth making. The aluminum tray in the early 1960s gained a fourth compartment, for dessert. An apple cobbler, a peach cobbler, or an apple and cherry combination, warm and sweet and slightly caramelized at the surface. This was not a great dessert. It was a warm, sweet thing in the corner of the tray, which was its entire ambition, and the ambition was correct. The four-compartment tray changed the TV dinner from a meal to a complete meal. Protein, starch, vegetable, and dessert. The same four components that a complete home-cooked dinner provided. The TV dinner was now arguing that it constituted a complete dinner, not a substitute for the dinner. The dinner. The argument was not settled in the 1960s. It has not been settled since. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We have more of this list. Number 10. The ham dinner. The comfort option. Swanson's ham dinner was the TV dinner's answer to the Sunday roast ham. A thick slice of cured ham in a sweet glaze, served alongside mashed potatoes and green beans or peas. The ham warm and slightly caramelized at the edges and slightly salty at the center. The sweet glaze having reduced in the oven into a sticky, glistening coating. A Swanson ham dinner cost 89 cents in 1962. Ham freezes and reheats well because the curing process produces a meat that is forgiving of overcooking. The salt and moisture distribution in a cured ham means that 25 minutes in the oven at 425 degrees produces a ham that is warm and savory and correctly done, with a glistening glaze and a tender, slightly salty interior. The ham dinner suited the household that had eaten ham every Sunday for 20 years and found the Swanson version an acceptable Tuesday version of the same experience. Not the same. An acceptable Tuesday version. Tuesday was not Sunday. The ham dinner did not pretend otherwise, and in not pretending otherwise, it was operating on the only principle that makes convenience food coherent. Be what you are, not what you are substituting for. Number 9. The chicken pot pie. The sealed compartment. The Swanson chicken pot pie was not a TV dinner in the 3-compartment aluminum tray format. It was a separate product. A single-serving pot pie in its own round aluminum pan, sealed beneath a pastry crust, filled with chunks of chicken breast, in a thick, creamy white sauce with diced carrots, peas, and celery. A Swanson chicken pot pie cost 29 cents in 1962. The chicken pot pie functioned as the TV dinner in its most self-contained form. The pastry crust served as both the lid of the container and the edible component that absorbed the steam from the filling during baking, emerging from the oven golden and slightly crisp on the top, soft and slightly doughy where it had been in contact with the filling. The filling, warm, creamy, rich, the chicken tender, and the vegetables soft, the sauce thick enough to hold its shape when the first cut through the pastry exposed it. At 29 cents, the chicken pot pie was the most affordable item in the Swanson frozen food case, and it sold to the customer who was not buying a TV dinner for a family, but buying dinner for one, the single adult, the boarding house resident, the college student with a hot plate, the category of American who had not previously had a reliable option for a single-serving warm dinner. The chicken pot pie invented that category. That category did not previously exist. Number 8. The beef pot pie. The second sealed compartment. The beef pot pie served as the chicken pot pie's less celebrated sibling. The same round aluminum pan, the same pastry crust sealed across the top, the same 29 cents in 1962. Inside, beef chuck cut into small pieces and braised in a dark, savory beef gravy alongside diced potatoes, carrots, and peas, the beef tender from the preparation process, and the potatoes soft, the gravy thick and dark and rich. The beef pot pie and the chicken pot pie sold side by side in the frozen food case, and the choice between them constituted the earliest version of what became the TV dinner's central question: meat preference as identity. Are you a chicken household or a beef household? The question was relevant to TV dinners before it was relevant to restaurants, because in restaurants the choice was made at the moment of ordering and applied only to the person ordering. In the frozen food case, you bought the household's preference in advance, and the preference revealed something about who you thought you were. Beef was more substantial. Chicken was more practical. These were class signals in 1962. Number 7. The fried shrimp dinner, the luxury tray. By the time this version came out in the mid-60s, Swanson had 11 TV dinner variations on the market, including one with fried shrimp. A Swanson fried shrimp dinner cost $1.29 in 1967. The fried shrimp dinner represented peak aspiration. Shrimp, which in the mid-1960s was close enough to a restaurant-only food that its presence in the frozen food aisle constituted a small social event, presented breaded and fried alongside French fries and coleslaw. The shrimp that came out of the oven were warm and slightly soft beneath their breading, the breading golden and slightly firm on the exterior, the shrimp inside tender and mild. They were good. At $1.29, the fried shrimp dinner cost 30 cents more than the sirloin beef dinner. The fried shrimp dinner was what you bought when you wanted to indicate, to no one in particular because you were eating it alone in front of the television, that you were the kind of household that ate shrimp on a Tuesday. The customer who bought the fried shrimp dinner understood exactly what they were buying. It was not just shrimp. It was the declaration that this Tuesday evening was not an ordinary Tuesday evening, and the declaration cost $1.29, which was 30 cents more than meatloaf and worth it. Number 6. The spaghetti and meatball dinner, the Italian option. When you wanted a taste of Italy but only had 20 minutes before bedtime, Swanson's spaghetti with meat sauce came to the rescue. A Swanson spaghetti dinner cost 89 cents in 1964. The spaghetti dinner represented the TV dinner's first significant departure from the American plate format, protein, starch, vegetable in separate compartments, and into something that did not separate its components because it was, by nature, a combined dish. The spaghetti and the sauce were in one compartment together. This was a structural change that the other TV dinners did not make. Spaghetti demanded it. You could not put spaghetti in one compartment and sauce in another and call it spaghetti. You would be calling it noodles and a sauce. The spaghetti dinner forced Swanson to recognize that sometimes the food arrives unified, and the compartments are the wrong answer. The pasta was tender and the sauce rich and tomatoey, and the meatballs small and dense and warm. Not particularly Italian, but warm and filling and satisfying and exactly what the customer was buying. Number 5. The Mexican dinner. The 1960s version of Elsewhere. Swanson offered a range of international dinners in the late 60s, including Italian, Chinese, and Mexican styles, providing customers with a variety of meal options. A Swanson Mexican dinner cost 89 cents in 1968. The Mexican TV dinner was Swanson's translation of a cuisine that most of its target customers in 1968 had encountered through Tex-Mex restaurants or canned goods rather than through travel or direct experience, and the translation reflected that encounter. An enchilada in a sauce that was more tomato than chile, a side of rice that was orange-tinted and slightly sweet, refried beans that were dense and warm and tasted of lard and canned goods. The enchilada was filled with a ground beef mixture seasoned with cumin and chili powder and somewhat more salt than subtlety, and the cheese on top melted during the oven time and browned at the edges of the compartment. It was not Mexican food. It was a 1968 frozen food company's interpretation of what Mexican food was, filtered through what freezes and reheats correctly. What it was, accurately, was the 1960s American encounter with the flavor profile of Mexican-American cooking, presented at 89 cents, and it tasted exactly like what the era believed Mexican food to be. Every era eats the food it understands. This was the food the era understood. Number 4. The Breakfast TV Dinner. The Last Frontier. In the 1960s, Swanson expanded its line of meals to breakfast and lunch. A Swanson breakfast TV dinner cost 79 cents in 1969. The breakfast TV dinner served as the logical extension of the TV dinner concept into the one meal that had remained until 1969 inside the category of things you cooked rather than heated. Scrambled eggs, a sausage patty, hash browns, and a pancake or toast in the compartments of an aluminum tray, heated in the oven and served at 2. The breakfast table or the coffee table or wherever the television was, because the TV dinner had long since expanded beyond dinner into the general category of meal at any hour. The scrambled eggs that came out of the oven were warm and slightly firm and slightly rubbery, what scrambled eggs become when frozen and then reheated. They tasted of egg and salt and the sausage patty's fat that had migrated from the adjacent compartment during the oven time. The breakfast TV dinner constituted an honest admission that the convenience that the TV dinner offered was not specific to dinner. It was specific to any meal. The 4:30 hour was gone. The 7 o'clock hour was going. The 8 o'clock hour was next. The aluminum tray had been ready since 1954 and did not need to be told that breakfast was next. It had always been designed for any meal at any hour for anyone who needed one. Number 3. The Chinese dinner. The farthest reach. A Swanson Chinese dinner cost 89 cents in 1967. The Chinese TV dinner was Swanson's most ambitious cultural translation, a cuisine with a 2,000-year history, a regional diversity that American Chinese-American restaurants had already significantly simplified further into what could be frozen in a compartmentalized aluminum tray and reheated to 165 degrees in a home oven. What emerged? Egg roll in one compartment, sealed and breaded, golden on the outside and warm inside. The filling a combination of cabbage, pork, and soy sauce reduced to a savory, slightly dense paste. Fried rice in the second compartment, warm and slightly clumped, and a sweet and sour sauce that was sweet and orange red and thick and tasted of vinegar and sugar. It was a very good 89-cent version of the American encounter with Chinese cooking in 1967. Nobody in 1967 who had eaten in an actual Chinese restaurant would have confused the two. The custody. Omer was not confused. The customer was buying the 89-cent version of an experience that cost $3 at the restaurant. That transaction was reasonable. It was a reasonable transaction. Number 2. The 4-compartment tray. The upgrade. The 4-compartment aluminum tray was introduced by Swanson in the early 1960s to accommodate the dessert compartment, the apple cobbler, the peach cobbler, the cherry cobbler, that the 3-compartment tray had no room for. A 4-compartment dinner cost 89 cents to $1.19, depending on the variety, in 1963. The 4th compartment, small in the corner, contained an apple or peach cobbler, warm and sweet and slightly caramelized at the surface, the fruit soft and warm beneath a topping that was somewhere between biscuit and cake. Not a great dessert. The greatest small dessert available for no additional cost in the corner of an aluminum tray in 1963. The 4th compartment was the TV dinner's argument that it was not a compromise. It was the TV dinner arguing, "I am the dinner," with all 4 components. At 89 cents, a dessert in a frozen tray is still a dessert, and the warm, sweet, slightly caramelized cobbler in the corner of the aluminum tray was still a dessert. It was the dessert that a 98-cent meal in 1954 could not afford to include. By 1963 it could, and it did, and 10 years later the Hungry Man version doubled everything but the cobbler, because the Hungry Man customer had different priorities than dessert in a corner compartment. Number 1. The aluminum tray. What it carried. Everything on this list arrived in an aluminum tray. The tray was 3/8 of an inch deep, divided into compartments, removed from the box and placed in the oven at 425 degrees for 25 minutes and carried, still in the tray, still hot, to wherever the television was. The aluminum tray changed American eating in the 1960s, not because it was better than the alternative, but because it made an alternative possible that had not previously existed. A Swanson TV dinner cost 98 cents in 1954 and $1.29 for the premium variant. Tie by the late 1960s. The aluminum tray held hot food, warm and savory and filling, that did not need a cook to produce it. The aluminum tray argued that the dinner did not require the afternoon, the cook, the attention, the investment of time and knowledge that the home dinner represented. The aluminum tray was right about some of this. The aluminum tray was wrong about some of this. The tray was discarded after the meal, as instructed. The question stayed. The question, what does it mean to eat a meal that someone else made? The aluminum tray did not answer this. The aluminum tray made the question permanent. Drop in the comments which Swanson TV dinner your family ate most, and whether you ate it at the kitchen table or in front of the television. Because the dinner in the tray was not just a product. The tray changed where dinner happened, and where dinner happened, changed what dinner was.